The Americans are roaring on at the US Open. They can't stop winning. And we have 3 Americans in the semis. Emma Navarro, Taylor Fritz and Frances Tiafoe. Sabalenka looks great too. And it's not good for Badosa. She completely bottled it.
That's right, the American dream they call it, and there are 3 people currently living it right now. Frances Tiafoe went through last night. He took out Grigor Dimitrov. We had Emma Navarro taking out Badosa, and the match we're going to start with, Taylor Fritz took out Zverev for a second successive slam, and he did this one in even more impressive fashion than he did at Wimbledon. It was 7-6, 3-6, 6-4, 7-6, and Taylor Fritz starting to look like a man that can really, really mix it in a Grand Slam. I'm really liking the evolution of Taylor Fritz, and I think he really embraced the moment. That's the one thing I'd take away from this Taylor Fritz performance. Normally he's playing Novak Djokovic in a quarterfinal. Normally it's too much for him. In this quarterfinal he was playing Zverev. He had the whole crowd on his side. He was playing great tennis, and he got the victory and didn't bottle it. Brilliant from Taylor Fritz.
Yeah, before I speak about the match, I want to give a shout out to all of our American viewers. I believe it is our most popular demographic. So shout out to you guys, because you're going to be witnessing something very special. And it's 19 years in the making. The first All-American Men's US Open semi-final since 2005. I don't remember one for a very long time. I would have been only very young at back in 2005. And being in New York makes it more special. The US Open, to have so many American players who have a chance to go on and win this tournament, I think adds that extra dynamic. We know what the crowds are like in New York. They're going to be very excited. To have an American in the final, we've not seen it since, well, obviously on the women's Coco Gauff, but on the men's for a very, very long time. And they're good value too, because I don't want to be dismissive of Sinner and Medvedev, because they are fantastic tennis players. Sinner arguably been the best player this year, up there with Alcaraz for sure. But I feel this has a bit of air of uncertainty in this final, because as much as I keep saying Sinner or Medvedev, whoever wins that will win the whole thing, because they've got to play each other before the final, we don't know what state they're going to be following that match. I honestly believe it has the making of a 6-hour classic, and on that basis, that's going to only help the American duo, who both have really big serves, who I think, even if it is to go 4 or 5 sets, will be a lot quicker than, say, a Medvedev and Sinner match. On that basis, if they are able to get to, well, one of them will get to the final, whoever that is, I think their chances in this final would be better, knowing that they've got this, Medvedev and Sinner have this big semi in store.
Yeah, the one thing that I think is on their side, and it's the sort of thing I didn't really think about going into the Zverev-Fritz match, there are a lot of quick points on these courts. I expected there to be not as much rallying between Fritz and Zverev. I thought we would see more a serve-heavy performance. I think the person I was more impressed with was Taylor Fritz on his serve. He looked more comfortable, and Zverev wasn't able to get into the Taylor Fritz service game as often as Fritz was able to get into his. I think on Sinner and Medvedev, I think we could see a lot of fast games as well. And I think even if it's a tie-break set, you could still find yourself having a 5-set match, which is around about the 4-hour mark still, I think. But you never know with Medvedev. He keeps the rally going for forever sometimes.
Similar with Sinner, though. Like, Sinner has the ability to return extremely well. And I think that one is not geared up to be fast points. I think it is going to be a real slog and a ridiculous battle.
Will suit Medvedev if it is, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, and that's why I think he's got a good shot of winning, and why I predict him to win. Speaking about this one, I think you've summed it up nicely. Taylor Fritz played a really good match. I thought Zverev in spells was there. The best shot of the match probably was Alex Zverev, the one where he whipped that forehand into the little corner. I don't know how he did it. If you saw how low the ball was, I think it was a volley which Taylor Fritz sort of cushioned into the other side of the court. Zverev got there and then found a winner, sort of bending it round. The angle was amazing, and his reaction was quite funny too. Probably the best shot of the tournament. I really, really enjoyed it, especially the slow-mo. I highly recommend watching it. And for Zverev now, I've been saying how he's had probably one of his best years. He's back to his best following the injury he had at Roland Garros with rolling his ankle against Rafa. But what's he got to show for it? And it's the same old Zverev. He's having a fantastic year and on paper should have made this final, and he's not done it again. And this is what he's done this year. You can see against Daniil Medvedev at the Australian Open. You'll have to remind me of all the rounds because I don't remember what round each one was. I think this could be maybe semi, I'm going to guess, or was it quarter-final? But you can see he was 2 sets to 1 up, 2 points away on serve, lost it. Alcaraz, he was 2 sets to 1 up, lost it. Fritz, 2 sets to love up, on serve, lost it. And then most recently, you can see again, I mean, this one's not so bad. It was 1 set all, 4 all, but still ended up losing. And in the slams, he's come so close, but yet so far because he's not able to close out big matches in these big tournaments. He's 27 years old now. He's approaching his career high, if not already. I don't think he is. Is he 2 in the world right now? I did see something like that maybe the other day when I was looking.
I mean,
but he's close to his all-time high, which is number 2. But yet, he looks further away from winning the slam than ever because nobody really believes in him. And I don't think he does. I think when he gets to a semi or even a final, he can be 2 sets up and he's probably going to lose. He's not going to be able to close out these things. 27 years old, the other player's getting better. I can make the statement now. I think Zverev will never, ever win a Grand Slam.
Wow.
I think his chances in 2024, he's not been able to do it. He's not been able to secure things. And he showed to me he doesn't have the ability, or he definitely has the ability, he doesn't have the mental ability to win a Grand Slam.
Yeah, he's had, the best opportunity, which was during COVID. Obviously, that the US Open against Dominic Thiem, and that was the biggest throwaway out of all of them. And I don't know if
this was another good one.
I don't know if that comes into his mind, though. Do you in these big matches that he's unable to get back into a really good winning mindset because he's always being haunted by the past in his mind? That's going to be something you have to go and speak to maybe a psychologist about. Someone, maybe a hypnotist or something, can help him get that over the line, because once you get to those big business end moments, it seems that his serve isn't as frequent. The first one, he gets a lot of second serve, sometimes double faults, sometimes just hits in the bottom of the net. Like yesterday, he said it was one of the worst matches he'd played. I don't know what's wrong. The crowd obviously not being on his side. I don't think he copes with that as well as what Novak Djokovic does. Djokovic, brilliant if the crowd's against him. Zverev, not great, but didn't really play up to the crowd. Medvedev uses it in his favour. Zverev doesn't. I mean, he went into a shell, didn't look that great, and Taylor Fritz took advantage. And I thought this was a really nice tweet that was put out by Bastian Fucken, saying after losing to Zverev in Wimbledon 2021, Fritz wrote a note to himself saying, "Nobody in the whole world is underachieving harder than you. You are so effing good, but 40 in the world. Get your effing shit together." So that's what he wrote to himself, and it was obviously tweeted by Morgan Riddle, just saying that this is how much, obviously, Taylor Fritz wanted this and how much pressure he puts on himself. He knows what everybody else is saying, but he is the one who has to go out there on the court and actually make it happen. And I think fair play to Taylor Fritz. I think he gets a lot of stick. We give him a lot of stick as well, especially in Grand Slams. But now I think
Djokovic.
I've seen him over the course of past years, the gradual evolution of Taylor Fritz, and you're starting to see him look a lot more solid off backhand, forehand, serve, and now we're starting to see the big moments is when he's starting to look a little bit more sure of himself and going for shots. I was a bit angry at him in certain moments. I was like, don't get angry at him because he's going for it in a big moment. There was a breakpoint opportunity. He went for a big forehand, missed it. And I was like, I'm actually not annoyed at him for that now, because I think if he, in the past, he would have just kept the rally going and got wiped off the court. So why not just keep going for it, play aggressive. If you lose, you lose, but at least you gave it a shot. And that's what he's doing now. And see, it's paying off. So, and look who's in the stands cheering him on. And as always, when you take a peek at the updated men's singles draw, and there you can see Morgan having a little look over her shades there, always cheering him on.
Who's her friend, do you know?
I don't know, to be honest. Probably just somebody, another influencer who's just been invited along.
Yeah, because I know you're very much in the know with celebrity influencers, so...
TikTok
maybe you
king.
can tell me afterwards.
Probably someone who, I'm sure in the influencer world, I'm not the person to come to for influencer stuff. I'm still reading newspapers. So
what this now means, Ben, is the big American semi-final. Let's touch on that. So Francis Tiafoe is the other person who went through, and I'm just looking at the matchup between Taylor Fritz and Tiafoe. Fritz is the heavy favourite, 1.4. They really fancy him. He's got a great opportunity to make the final. And what this means for American tennis is huge. And we need to focus on this American resurgence because it's been a long time in the coming.
Yep.
And we got Luca putting in a tweet saying, after 19 years and 75 slam tournaments, there will be another men's semi-finalist between two players from America, Taylor Fritz and Tiafoe. And if you look at per the decade, and this is semi-finals, 2010 to 2019, 0. 2000 to 2009, only 2. 1990 to 99, 14. And 1980 to 1989, 23. So tennis in the 80s for Americans was brilliant. And then it's been gradually declining year on year. And really, from the year 2000 onwards, American men have not performed very well in slams. Is this a turning point? My first question. And do you think... what this now means is having the confidence of these two getting there, it's going to inspire other Americans like the Tommy Pauls to make the step to try and get into a semi-final. And are we going to see these guys regularly making it in all of the slams there? Especially the hardcore ones.
We've got so many great Americans who sort of coming up through the rankings as well. Some young ones. Mickelson's one who's just sort of like launched himself on the scene. He looks really good. We obviously have Ben Shelton, definitely a mainstay on the tour now. We've got Ethan Quinn, another good one. Martin Dam, Lerner Tien. You start to see that name coming up. He's only 18 years old as well. So there's a lot of exciting stuff. I would say I'd say Australia has a lot of exciting players. Italy has a lot of exciting players. I'd say Czech Republic, a lot of exciting players. I wish Britain had a few more people coming through. Yeah. But I think Fernley is one that after Wimbledon, I'm keeping a close eye on. I think he's a really good player. So it's not all down in the dumps in the UK, but the other countries definitely putting a lot more emphasis, especially America. This whole college tennis thing seems to really bring through a lot of young talent. So exciting times for the United States. And I think this matchup, Tiafoe should be the underdog. Based upon their head-to-head as well, he is 6-1 down. So do you think that plays a big factor in this, or is this now just like a cup match? Like when you get second division team playing a first division team and then they go into a cup and form goes out the window.
I think you're talking to the wrong guy because as this podcast has progressed, I've not looked into head-to-heads as much as what I did before. You still like them. I think they mean very little in the grand scheme of things. In some matchups, you can look at them, but in the majority, you can't. This is a slam semi-final at the US Open. I think all the other matches mean nothing. And the last bit of this tweet, which I didn't get to, was it's also going to be the first men's slam semi-final between two players not ranked inside the top 10 since Anderson and Buster, the US Open in 2017. Wow. So another thing to consider.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. I like this tweet from Francis Tiafoe as well. He came out with one saying, it's not like it once was where you have made a quarter-final and play Rafa and you're already looking at your flight. So there is that type of feeling at the US Open this year where people just feel like they had more of a shot. And the way he got past Dimitrov, I thought was impressive. Dimitrov, I'm a bit disappointed that he retired at 4-1, to be honest. I thought that he could have saw that match out. I don't know how bad the injury was. I don't even know what the injury was. But there was part of me feeling like he sort of had just given up by the end and just threw in the towel.
Yeah, agreed. Good assessment. And it is frustrating because it's not the first time it's happened. He's retired now mid-match, 7 out of 56 majors played. So that's 1 in every 8, which is quite a few, really, if you think about it. And that dates all the way back from 2009 Wimbledon. He also retired mid-match this year at Wimbledon, 24. So seems to be a little bit of a theme with Grigor Dimitrov. When the going gets tough in these slams and he's losing, he just retires. But he wasn't playing well enough. He's played a lot better throughout the whole tournament. He's had a brilliant year. He's a lot more consistent than what he was once upon a time. And I think this was a little bit of a wasted opportunity because I predicted Grigor to win. He's got the ability to beat a Tiafoe for sure.
Yeah.
And he just didn't turn up. Tiafoe wanted it more.
He definitely
Deserved
did.
it. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. We got his obviously his interview with Chris Eubanks is the thing that always makes the headlines. And he said, "What is it about New York City that brings out the best in you?" And Francis said, "New York City, the best atmosphere in the world, the best arena in the world, named after the late great Arthur Ashe. That just alone lights a fire under me. I love to perform on the biggest stages, biggest arenas, biggest moments. That's ultimately what it is." And just so we can see Francis here, it's looking a little. We know Medvedev had the treatment. I think Francis is even worse. He now looks 4 foot tall next to Chris Eubanks in this interview. What do you make of his comments there? And do you think that he maybe has the advantage on Taylor Fritz with being better at dealing with big moments in New York?
That's why it's a fascinating match. That's why the head-to-head means nothing. Can you see how you've just completely ruled out the head-to-head by saying that statement? It's all going to be about the occasion and who handles it better because they're both fantastic tennis players. They've both got big serves and they can find winners from all over. Ability-wise, their peaks are not that much different. I'd say Taylor Fritz probably slightly better as an overall tennis player. However, if they both play their best, there's not going to be much in it on this occasion. The point is, how high can they reach? What optimal level can they perform at a Grand Slam semi-final at home in America with the crowd going crazy? And Tiafoe, probably on paper, I think can handle that occasion better than Taylor Fritz. On that basis, you'd have to favour him and give him a good shot to win. But we're not going to give any predictions now. We're going to save that for tomorrow when we do all of our semi-final predictions in one video. And this is a good one from Vance. The last time an American man was in the final of a major, Instagram didn't exist, iPads didn't exist, Federer's twin girls weren't born, Mira Andreeva was 2 years old, Harry Potter and the Half-Blooded Prince movie hadn't been released, and Dinara Safina was world number 1. I can add one there as well. Ben was only 30 years old as well.
Yeah, I mean, were you born back then? I can't work it out. But yeah, I think we've spoken enough about the men's. Let's move on to the women. And there's one lady who is absolutely storming through the draw. We thought, could it be a close match? But then we thought, we're going to go straight sets because we know it makes sense. And it is Alina Sabalenka absolutely battered Kim Win-Zheng. It wasn't even close, and it was one of the most one-sided quarterfinals, especially of this tournament, but that I've seen in recent years. 6-1, 6-2 for Sabalenka, and as I said, I think it finally came to a head. Playing the Olympics, it can only... the tiredness is going to come on eventually, the fatigue, and I think this was the match.
Yeah, and she was asked, Kim Win-Zheng, about finishing at 2 a.m., after her in today's match against Sabalenka. She said, of course it affects a lot. I was not able to practice, but there are other players who finish really late, so I can't complain. I think it's an accumulation of finishing late, the Olympics, and a few other variables as well. She had a fantastic tournament. That was going to always be her ceiling. I'm not surprised it was really one-sided. Sabalenka, the way she's playing right now, nobody can beat her. And I'm not going to say any more about it because I feel like we've repeated ourselves on every episode speaking about Sabalenka. But now she has become the first player to reach the women's semi-final at both the Australian and the US Open in back-to-back years since Serena Williams. Very consistent on the hard courts. I think we can agree it is her best surface, the hard courts. She's not too bad on clay and grass now, to be fair. Very versatile, but hard courts being her best. Let's see if she can go on and win it. I think she needs to win this tournament. I'll be fascinated if it is a final against Iga. If Iga can pose any problems. Is she going to come to the net more? Is she going to have to play ultra aggressive? Will she be able to even contain her? That is a fascinating one on paper. I just want to see how it plays out because it's a slam final and that's where Saba sometimes can dip playing against a top player. Aside from that, I can't really comment too much on this match or King Wing.
There's no guarantee that Iga's going to get there. And this is the one thing we should throw into the equation because this is an all-American podcast today. And Iga is playing an American who's never made it to the semi-finals of a slam as well. So we could have 3 first-time slam semi-finalists coming from America. Tiafoe being the only one who's already been there before. That could be crazy. This could be the year for Jess Pegula. She's seeing what's going on in all of these other players from her country. The crowd surely are going to be getting behind her as well, trying to get her into the semi-finals. Imagine that. America could have 2 men and 2 women in the semi-finals of a slam. They're guaranteed a man in the final. That's amazing in itself. They could potentially have an all-American women's final. Could you imagine that?
I've imagined it, and then it's faded because Jessica Pegula is not beating Iga, so I don't want to ruin your whole build-up there, but I just don't see that one happening.
What about Navarro Sabalenka?
I want to speak about Navarro in depth, so before we do, let's just touch on Saba, because I do have another tweet. I don't know if you want to bring it up. I quite like it. It's funny.
Ping me.
And this is Bastian Facken. I sent it to you earlier.
And
it said it could cost her. I don't know, read the top one. So, Arena offered to pay the drinks for everybody in exchange for support in the next round. She doesn't know Honey Juices are $23 a piece. And Ash has a capacity of 23,000 people. She just wants to be loved. She wants the crowd to get behind her. They don't seem to in a lot of events she plays. So Bastian Facken's done the maths, and it would cost her $529,000 to buy everyone one of them, what's it called? Honey Juices.
Honey Juice, yeah.
And the prize money difference between semi-final and finalists is $800,000. She generally does play worse when the crowd's against her. Just have a look at 2023 US Open final. So it could be a very profitable gamble. If she buys everyone a drink for them to get on her side, she would gain from that situation. What, the difference of that? Almost 300,000.
Well, I'm going to save her a few quid here because I reckon that there's probably a few children there in the crowd as well. So you can probably chop out another 100,000 there. So she could probably bring it down a little bit. But I reckon there'll probably be some parents out there going yeah, I'll get one for my kid as well. Just have 2 just on the side. Yeah, they'll just be lying about how many people are there watching. But, well, is she going to do it? Will we see a big line of Honey Juices coming up? Are the bar people going to be going crazy at the US Open? I would love to see it. I'd love to see them all lined up. All of the people from the stands afterwards, all just there waiting. But that could be a ridiculous scenario. Let's move on. Oh, you want to go to Navarro first? Go on then. We'll go to Navarro first, and then I'll talk about the capitulation, let's say, of Paula Badosa.
Well, I mean, they go hand in hand. It's the same match. So we'll talk about the capitulation first, I guess.
Yeah, go on.
Badosa up 5-1, and then ends up losing 7-5. What happened? She lost 5 points in the last 6 games, Emma Navarro. What a season she's having. Was it a case of Navarro turning it up, or did Badosa just completely bottle it?
I mean, watching the match, when I saw Badosa 5-1 up, I was like, oh, my prediction's looking pretty good. I went Badosa in 3. And then to watch what happened, I feel like sometimes she just forgets how to play tennis. That's all I could really put it down to. Emma Navarro's level was great throughout, so we can't take it away from her. But Paula Badosa was playing fantastically well, and then suddenly just stopped being able to serve properly, stopped being able to hit through the balls. It was going in the net constantly. It was going wide, long, and Navarro must have thought, this is all right. I'm not even having to really do a lot to win these points because they were just being thrown at her. And as soon as it got to 5-4, I thought, you got one last chance here, Paula. Don't worry. One more service game. She got broken to love. I mean, it was literally, I couldn't even make it up. And then after that, you just knew she'd lost. I was like, there's no way she comes back now and wins this. And she didn't. She lost the next 2 games, done and dusted. I mean, I felt sorry for her, but I liked the way she took it in her stride. She actually said, if you'd have told me I'd be in this position now, like earlier in the year, I'm actually going to take a positive from this. So I'm actually happy with how I've recovered this season and got to the position I'm in. So fair play to her, seeing the brighter side, but she won't want to rewatch that match. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, Badosa's secured sort of top 20 for now, which is amazing for her. She's back to where she should be. But Emma Navarro is the big story. She's now 8 in the world, just behind Qinwen Zheng. If she is to win the US Open, this may surprise you, she will leapfrog Coco Gauff into 6th. So she'll be higher in the rankings than Coco Gauff. And if you think about it, before the year, we didn't really know much about her at all. No one had her inside the top 10. She looks like she's going to qualify for the race, the women's race, to be in the Tour finals at the end of the year. And she has the ability to go on and win the US Open. I think she's that good. She is having such a good season across all the surfaces, doing some great stuff, flying the flag for America. And another name you can put in there with Taylor Fritz and Tiafoe. She's equally as impressive as all of them. And all 3 of them are dangerous players, and you cannot rule them out at the US Open. I don't care if you've got Sabalenka there. I don't care if you've got Yannick Sinner and Daniel Medvedev. Them 3 Americans are super dangerous, and they've got chances at the US Open to win the whole thing.
Wow, you heard it here first. She's a massive underdog against Sabalenka. Sabalenka 1.25 on the betting odds. That's fair, I think, just considering how Sabalenka's been playing. And Navarro, though, we said it against Coco Gauff. What was the last match? We said it against Badosa as well. If she's an underdog in a match at the moment, I feel that she's a really good person to take a bet on. Because her level hasn't dipped. That's the one thing. You haven't really seen her go, whoa, it's been a bit of a wobbly tournament, up and down. Consistent. That's the one thing that she brings. And if Sabalenka, like she said there, and like Bastian fucking said, when the crowd aren't on her side, she does suffer. So that all the crowd are going to be cheering on Emma Navarro, Sabalenka may come unstuck. The serve may be a little bit patchy. She might be stopped serving because of the crowd, and they'll see that it's affecting her and they'll do it more. And then you'll get Emma Navarro come through at 3-1 if you want to put a bet on.
There we go. I think we've wrapped it up there. Thank you everyone for listening. That is our US Open roundup of some of the quarter-final action. Next up, we've got some more quarterfinals, right? No, we've done all the quarterfinals. No, we've got some more quarterfinals. And then from there, we'll be doing a semi-final prediction video this time tomorrow to speak about the last quarterfinals and then the semi-finals with our predictions. It's hotting up at the US Open. Shout out to the American viewers. It is, I think, our biggest demographic. So I'm sure you guys are going to be really pleased and excited to see if one of your guys can go on and win. You got 3 big chances, 4 if you count Pegula, but I know Ben's only big on her.
Well, I'm going to be cheering on later on today. Jack Draper, the final hope for Great Britain. Come on, Jack! Get past Demonor, get to that semi-final, and then we'll see if Medvedev or Sinner, who fancies it? Who wants a bit of Draper? Come on, do it for Britain.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Jack Draper one. I'm definitely going to be supporting him. I'm going to watch the full match, sit down and relax with a nice beer. Hopefully you do too, and we'll see you tomorrow. Come on, Jack.